The stage fades to black, and a single violin note hangs in the air, soft, trembling, and almost ghostly. Out of that silence rises the unmistakable voice of Alison Krauss, pure as crystal and heartbreakingly beautiful. She wasn't just a singer. She was the queen of the fiddle, the woman who turned small-town bluegrass into something sacred. Her music could hush a room full of noise and make even the hardest hearts stop to listen. But suddenly, it all went quiet. The shows stopped. The interviews vanished. Even her bandmates spoke her name like it was wrapped in glass. Whispers started spreading. Was it burnout? A breakdown? Something darker? The spotlight that once adored her dimmed overnight, leaving behind a mystery that fans still can't stop asking about. Why did Alison Krauss disappear when she was untouchable? What really happened behind that velvet curtain? Before the fame and Grammys, before Nashville lit up her name, Alison was just a shy girl from Decatur, Illinois. Born on July 23, 1971, she grew up in a modest home surrounded by music and love. Her dad, a quiet German engineer, filled the house with European folk tunes, while her mom, a creative Italian spirit, pushed her children to find beauty in everything. It was in that small-town calm that Alison found her true language, music. Her mom signed her up for violin lessons, but Alison's soul was too wild for scales and drills. She tuned into late-night radio instead, falling in love with Bill Monroe, the Stanley Brothers, and the angelic voice of Dolly Parton. Those songs became her secret world, where fiddles cried, banjos danced, and hearts spoke louder than words. Even as a child, her tiny hands moved over the strings like she was born for it. She didn't just play the fiddle, she felt it. Every note was a heartbeat, every bow stroke a story. No one around her could have guessed that the shy girl from Illinois would grow up to move millions with the sound of her soul. By age 10, Alison was already lighting up fiddle contests in dusty community halls, her tiny frame almost swallowed by the instrument in her arms. The moment she stepped under those flickering lights, nerves melted away, and her bow caught fire, fast, fierce, and full of soul. The crowd would fall silent, stunned that such raw emotion could come from a child barely tall enough to reach the mic. Within 2 short years, she was unstoppable. By 12, Alison had trophies from Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee stacked higher than her violin case. Newspapers called her the fiddle prodigy. But what made jaws drop was that she wasn't just beating other kids. She was outplaying grown men in a genre long ruled by them. She wasn't chasing fame, she was chasing freedom. Each note she played was her escape from small-town quiet into something bigger, brighter, and boundless. Then fate came knocking. Rounder Records, a respected bluegrass label, spotted her brilliance and offered a deal. At just 14, Alison Krauss became one of the youngest artists ever signed in the history of bluegrass. Picture it, a teenage girl, bow in hand, stepping into a studio where history was waiting to be written. That moment changed everything. But this dream came with a price. While other teens were slow dancing at school or hanging out all summer, Alison was learning what it meant to carry a career before she was even old enough to drive. The studio lights replaced the glow of high school dances, and the weight of expectation grew heavier than her own fiddle. At 16, her first album, Too Late to Cry, dropped in 1987. The cover showing a sweet, curious face that had already lived a grown-up's life. Behind those bright eyes was a girl who'd traded innocence for legacy, and she was just getting started. Behind that gentle smile was a storm brewing inside. Alison might have looked calm, but every time she picked up her fiddle in the studio, her hands trembled. The room was filled with seasoned pros, older men with decades on the road, watching her like she was a curious experiment. Could this teenage girl really carry a record on her shoulders? The doubt was thick enough to choke on. Bluegrass back then wasn't exactly welcoming to newcomers, especially not a young girl from Illinois. She wasn't born in the Southern Hills, and that alone made her an outsider. The newspapers loved to call her a child star, but behind those flattering headlines lurked the real question. Would she last? Or would she vanish as fast as she'd arrived? While her classmates were laughing at football games, Alison was rolling through the Midwest in crowded vans, cheap motels, greasy diners, and echoing fairground stages became her teenage world. Fans saw a small girl stepping on stage, silent at first, then transforming the air with music that burned straight through the soul. But after the applause faded, she'd sit alone in those dim rooms, wondering quietly, am I losing my youth to all this? The toughest critic wasn't the press, it was Alison herself. Her perfectionism cut deep. Every take, every note had to shimmer with precision. She'd redo songs again and again, terrified that one imperfect sound might ruin the magic. If it isn't perfect, she often thought, maybe it shouldn't exist at all. That fear stole her sleep, keeping her trapped between triumph and breakdown. When she joined Union Station, things finally started to shift. The band gave her stability, though the age gap made her cautious. These were grown musicians, steady, seasoned, sharp, and Alison was still learning to find her voice among them. In meetings, she'd stay quiet, nodding, never wanting to sound like the kid in the room. But by 1989, when Two Highways dropped, everything changed. It wasn't a massive hit, but it was the album that silenced the skeptics. For the first time, Alison wasn't just the prodigy. She was an artist, a real force in bluegrass with a sound that was tender, haunting, and unmistakably her own. The climb didn't get easier. It got tougher. Alison fought every single day, against doubt, against loneliness, and against the old-school attitudes that still ruled the bluegrass scene. But those battles made her unbreakable. The shy girl who once shook on stage became a force, a woman who refused to bow to limits. Every sleepless night, every tear behind the curtain built the armor that would carry her into music history. By the early 90s, Alison Krauss was done being the fiddle prodigy. At just 19, she dropped I've Got That Old Feeling, and it hit like lightning. That album didn't just make noise, it rewrote the rules. When she won her first Grammy for it, people realized bluegrass wasn't dying. It was being reborn in her hands. The world had found its new voice, and she was only getting started. Then came 1992, Every Time You Say Goodbye, another Grammy, another victory lap. Alison wasn't a fluke, and she made sure everyone knew it. By 1994, at just 23, she walked onto the sacred stage of the Grand Ole Opry and took her place among legends. Imagine that, a small-town girl from Illinois standing tall under Nashville's golden lights. And then came the song that made her unforgettable, When You Say Nothing at All. What was once Keith Whitley's tune became a whole new masterpiece under Alison's delicate, crystal-clear voice. The moment it hit the airwaves, America froze. Living rooms, diners, and radio stations everywhere fell silent, just listening. That was the power of her voice, gentle yet unstoppable. By the late 90s, Alison wasn't just part of bluegrass, she was bluegrass. In 1997, So Long, So Wrong earned her yet another Grammy, cementing her as a living legend. But she didn't stop there. In 1999, she took a bold step with Forget About It, a softer pop country twist that shocked her fans and won over millions of new ones. Suddenly, even people who'd never heard a fiddle before were falling under her spell. Alison Krauss had turned tradition into timeless art, and she made it look effortless. The 90s made Alison a legend, but the 2000s crowned her royalty. In 2000, her haunting voice floated through "O Brother, Where Art Thou?", a soundtrack nobody expected to change music history, yet it did. The record sold over 8 million copies, swept the Grammys for Album of the Year, and lit the spark of a full-blown bluegrass revival. Suddenly, America remembered its roots, and Alison Krauss became the shining face of that rebirth. From there, she was unstoppable. New favorite in 2001, Live in 2002, Lonely Runs Both Ways in 2004, each one stacking Grammys like trophies in a castle. It seemed like everything she touched turned to gold, but nothing could have prepared the world for what came next. In 2007, she teamed up with Robert Plant, the roaring voice of Led Zeppelin, for an unexpected collaboration. Critics doubted it. How could a rock god blend with Alison's glass-like tone? Then, Raising Sand dropped, and the world stood still. The album swept across the globe, winning 5 Grammys by 2009, including Album of the Year. With that, Alison became the most decorated female Grammy winner in history at the time. A girl from Decatur, Illinois, had just rewritten music history. But fame doesn't shield you from pain. In the 2010s, her world went silent. Between 2010 and 2013, Alison disappeared, battling dysphonia, a vocal disorder that nearly destroyed her voice. For a singer, it was like losing oxygen. She released Paper Airplane in 2011, but then came the silence, heavy and heartbreaking. Fans asked the same fearful question: would her crystal voice ever return? Then, against all odds, she came back. In 2017, after nearly 2 decades without a solo project, Alison released Windy City. The album debuted at number 9 on the Billboard 200 and reminded everyone why she mattered. Her voice wasn't the same. It was rawer, heavier, carved by pain, but it carried a deeper truth. She had turned fragility into strength. By the 2020s, she wasn't just a survivor. She was unbreakable. In 2021, she reunited with Robert Plant for Raise the Roof, and the magic struck again. Critics raved, fans cried, and the duo toured across the US and Europe through 2022 and 2023, proving their chemistry was timeless. Now, even in 2024 and 2025, Alison appears only at select Americana and bluegrass festivals. Each performance feels like an event, a rare, sacred moment. Because Alison Krauss isn't just a star anymore, she's the living queen of bluegrass. Her story reads like a legend, signing with Rounder Records at 14, rising to 27 Grammy wins, falling into silence, and returning with a voice reshaped by time. It proved one thing loud and clear: real greatness isn't about perfection. It's about surviving the storm and coming back stronger than ever. But behind the spotlight, Alison's world was quietly collapsing. The crowds roared, the lights burned bright, and she stood center stage, flawless, untouchable, adored. Yet when the applause faded and the arena went dark, a silent tragedy was tightening its grip. For years, Alison had seemed invincible. Award after award, her name was carved into music history. Then, almost overnight, everything stopped. Concerts canceled, interviews vanished. A chilling quiet replaced her once constant melody. Whispers started spreading like wildfire. Was she burned out? Was there trouble in Union Station? Had she finally had enough of Nashville's pressure? The tabloids pounced, spinning tales of breakdowns and secret feuds. But the truth was far more painful than gossip could ever be. Alison Krauss was fighting dysphonia, a brutal vocal disorder that robbed her of control over her own voice. For most people, it would be heartbreaking. For a singer whose gift was once called the voice of crystal, it was pure devastation. Imagine standing on stage, opening your mouth to sing, and hearing your own voice shatter. Notes cracked, broke, disappeared mid-air. Her safe place, the stage, turned into a battlefield of fear. She started backing away, turning down shows, skipping interviews, avoiding fans who only knew her as flawless. Her closest friends still remember the nights she'd sit alone in the dark, microphone in hand, paralyzed by dread. They say she'd whisper into the silence, "If I lose my voice, then who am I?" That question haunted her more than the illness itself. Nashville insiders murmured, "Alison Krauss is finished." Headlines screamed about collapse and heartbreak. The bluegrass world held its breath, unsure if the Queen would ever return. And behind it all, her Union Station bandmates fought to protect her legacy, quietly hoping that one day that crystal voice would rise again. The band tried to move forward, but without Alison, their heart, it felt hollow. Doctors gave her a harsh sentence: absolute silence, no singing, barely any speaking. For months, the woman whose world had always been built on sound was trapped in total quiet. For Alison, music was oxygen. Now silence felt like suffocation. Friends saw the change immediately. The laughter was gone. Her once bright eyes turned distant, haunted. Her perfectionism, once her greatest strength, turned against her. The questions in her mind became relentless daggers. If I can't sing like before, will people still care? If I fail, will all those years of glory mean nothing? Her long disappearance gave the tabloids new fuel. Whispers flew. Secret illness, band drama, heartbreak. Some even spun wild stories about scandal and breakdowns. But none of them came close to the truth. Alison Krauss, 27-time Grammy winner, wasn't battling gossip. She was battling her own voice. Each day became a test of courage. Some mornings she'd try a few gentle notes, only to hear them break and crumble, sending her into tears. Other nights, she'd find a flicker of hope, a single perfect tone that landed full and alive. Those tiny victories were her lifeline. To the world, she was silent. But behind closed doors, she was fighting for her very soul. Fans waited and wondered, hearts aching for that crystal sound that once healed them. The question loomed like a shadow. Would Alison Krauss ever return? Or had her light gone out forever, swallowed by silence? Away from the spotlight, Alison lived nothing like a celebrity. She avoided glamour, craving peace over fame. Reporters in Nashville often grumbled that she was impossible to reach, but that was exactly how she wanted it. She didn't owe the world her personal life. In the late 1990s, Alison married musician Pat Burgesson, and though their marriage ended after a few years, it gave her something priceless, her son, Sam, born in 1999. He became her anchor, her quiet song when the music stopped. During her darkest days, when dysphonia silenced her, Sam was the reason she kept going. Even after the split, Alison stayed close with her ex, always choosing kindness over drama. She once said, "Music can take you far, but family keeps you grounded." And it showed. Fans who caught glimpses of her backstage often saw her watching little Sam darting around with a shy smile, a rare, tender look that said everything words never could. Outside her home, Alison had another kind of family, Union Station. To her, the band wasn't just musicians she toured with. They were brothers, her emotional backbone. When illness stole her voice, they never pushed her to perform again. They waited quietly and faithfully, guarding her legacy, until she was strong enough to stand beneath the lights once more. That loyalty became her lifeline during the darkest years of her silence. In her everyday life, Alison was known for her calm spirit and humility. She didn't chase trends, didn't play into the fame machine. and you'd never catch her stirring drama just for attention. No reality shows, no scandals, just music and meaning. Her quietness wasn't mystery, it was protection. While others got lost in the noise of celebrity, Alison found power in silence, spending her days reading, playing her fiddle, and finding peace in the simplest moments. That stillness kept her grounded. When she finally returned, she wasn't a shadow of her old self. She was stronger, authentic, centered, and untouched by the chaos of Nashville's fame circus. Alison Krauss was never chasing controversy. She was chasing truth. She only ever wanted to be a mother, a loyal friend, and an artist who made people feel. Someone real who knew both joy and heartbreak, and who understood that sometimes silence speaks louder than any song. When it comes to American music, there are legends, and then there's Alison Krauss. She didn't just sing bluegrass, she redefined it. Before her, the genre was seen as small town, Appalachian, tucked away in the mountains. But with her crystal clear tone and that magical fiddle, she made bluegrass universal. Her voice broke barriers. Country fans found softness, pop fans found heart, and critics called her sound music for the soul. She turned humble roots into high art and carried an entire genre into the global spotlight. Alison Krauss didn't just play music, she changed it forever. Alison didn't just make hits, she built bridges. From I've Got That Old Feeling to Raising Sand, she proved that bluegrass could evolve without losing its soul. Her music connected generations, showing that honesty and emotion never go out of style. With over 27 Grammys, she became the most awarded female artist in Grammy history, leaving the competition miles behind. But her impact went far beyond trophies. Alison opened doors for a whole new wave of women in bluegrass and Americana, genres once guarded by men. Artists like Sarah Watkins, Sierra Hull, and even a young Taylor Swift have all said she inspired them to pick up the fiddle and chase their own sound. She didn't just make music, she made space for others to shine. Her voice on the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Soundtrack didn't just sell millions, it sparked a nationwide folk revival. Suddenly, old American sounds were new again, echoing from radios, college dorms, and coffee shops. Thanks to Alison, roots music became cool again. The songs of the past were reborn through her voice, gentle, haunting, and timeless. And her influence reached way beyond bluegrass. Rockers, pop icons, and country legends all wanted to share a mic with her. From Dolly Parton to James Taylor, from Robert Plant to countless others. They all said the same thing. Alison's voice doesn't just blend, it transforms. Every duet she touched became something celestial, a perfect balance of strength and grace. But maybe Alison Krauss's greatest legacy isn't her awards, her albums, or even her record-breaking success. It's the feeling she left behind. Fans might forget trends or chart toppers, but they never forget the moment they first heard her sing. That shimmering, fragile voice, like it was made of glass and light, made the world stop for just a second. And in that stillness, it felt like heaven was reaching down to listen too. In a world where music keeps getting louder, Alison Krauss remains living proof that sometimes softness is the strongest sound of all. Her legacy isn't built on noise or glitter, it's built on truth, humility, and heart. After years of silence brought on by dysphonia, she finally found her light again, not by chasing perfection, but by embracing imperfection. When Alison returned to the studio, she said something that broke hearts and healed them all at once. "I don't sing the way I used to, but that doesn't matter. What matters is I can still sing." That one line said everything. In 2017, she released Windy City, a deeply personal project filled with warmth and grace. The album soared up the Billboard charts and reminded everyone, Alison was still Alison, only now wiser, braver, and more human than ever. By 2021, she reunited with Robert Plant for Raise the Roof, proving lightning can strike twice. The album swept up new fans, some who came for Plant, but left mesmerized by Alison's crystal-clear magic. Their concerts were breathtaking, not just for the music, but for the emotion. They were witnessing two legends reborn, creating art not for fame, but for love of the craft. Today, Alison doesn't chase perfection anymore. She sings freely, smiling through every note, even when her voice wavers. And somehow, that honesty, that beautiful imperfection, hits deeper than anything polished ever could. She spends her days quietly now, choosing only projects that truly move her, spending more time with her son Sam and the family that keeps her grounded. For her, music isn't a race anymore. It's a thank you. And the most powerful part? The audience never left. They waited for her, and when she finally returned, they welcomed her with open hearts. Every time she steps on stage, the crowd falls silent, not just to hear a singer, but to witness a survivor who turned pain into poetry. Alison Krauss's life can't be measured in awards or numbers anymore. It's measured in grace. She began as a tiny fiddle prodigy from Illinois, became the queen of Bluegrass, fell silent when her voice broke, and rose again carrying the scars that made her stronger. Those cracks in her voice didn't ruin her. They made her real. Because real light never fades. It just waits for the right moment to shine again. Alison Krauss didn't just survive. She transformed survival into art. Her whisper became thunder, her silence became her song, and her truth became timeless. Like, share, and subscribe to America's Hidden Gold channel, where the legends live on, where the music never dies, and where the next story begins just as the last violin note fades away.